It's saying we're live. Let's just check. It's all good. We're getting ticks. Welcome, Sabrina Moore. There's so many ways I could introduce you. So powerlifting, epic strength, going into accountancy. You're one of my favorite joint venture clients for the story of, I think most people would imagine that people are accountants and then they become powerlifters. Whereas you've done it the opposite way. You've been a powerlifter and you're like, actually, I want to be an accountant, which kind of, I don't know. There's something about the story of, you know, people breaking out of like corporate numbers type jobs and doing creative things or weightlifting things or, you know, athletic things, and you're doing it the other way around. So I find that fascinating and a great example to creatives who maybe actually want to do not like, it's not the accounting isn't creative, although that part of it can be.
We don't like
creative accounting. But it's just that I just love you as a person who's kind of done the opposite of what people think you will do. It's like you had a quote unquote not proper job, and then now you've done a proper job for the love of it, rather than most people trying to get away from corporate. So I think that's really interesting to talk about. You are soon to be a mum, which I did check whether we can talk about that. So you have a baby on the way, which is like there's another whole world of stuff there we can talk about having a business, being a mum. How do you deal with parenthood in this crazy world of everyone having lots of shouty arguments on social media and all the rest of it? We have a myriad of things to talk about. For anyone listening live, you can comment on YouTube. If you're listening on YouTube, you can comment and we can see you. If you're on Facebook, we can't see you. And our phones are switched off and we're not looking at them. So apologies if you message and we haven't seen it. We will follow up with comments later. Where I'd really like to focus is on your journey, what happened, what led you to where you are today, and then also really speaking to people who want their own business, don't know where to start. Accounting is just this thing. Apologies to all the men in suits who do accounting. You're great and we love you, and that you scare people out there who want to run a small business. And Sabrina, I have it that what Lucy from Mazuma is doing, there's this kind of world coming where accountancy is not this sort of scary big thing that corporations do. It's becoming accessible to one-man bands and all of that. So I'd really like to focus there and hear about what you have to say about it. But maybe first, do you want to just give us a kind of, you left school at what age, what did you do then, what happened, and kind of bring us up to today?
Gosh, yeah, sure. So I went after A-levels, went to Cardiff University, and I actually did an integrated master's degree in chemistry. So
I didn't know that.
I did 4 years at Cardiff Uni. Came out of that pretty depressed, to be honest, and found that exercise had really helped me get through that. And while I was looking for jobs after uni, I was looking at big companies like Lloyd's, Deloitte, ironically accounting firms, and
so yeah, hang on. But doing what
though? The graduate schemes and things like that. And I just, through the interview processes, I just thought, this kind of environment isn't for me. And I was like really struggling with it. And I was looking for other things to do. By this point, I think I was back at home. I just about signed on. I think I signed on for 2 weeks and then I got a job in a bar. But I was looking for jobs, basically.
And those who are listening who don't know what signed on is, because they might be in another country or whatever, that's like signing on for benefits, basically, because you weren't earning, so you needed, and then there's a whole world of, so was there any stigma around that for you, of like, a lot of people don't want to sign on or any of that? Was that fine? It was like, it's there, I'm going to use it, it's all good.
It was fine. Yeah, it was fine. And actually, I didn't actually get a payment because I got a job pretty much straight away. So, so I was just working in a bar. And then moved out of my mum's house about a month later because I just was like, I need to get out of here. And then I was looking online for jobs and I saw an advert to become a personal trainer. And it was just all about helping people. And do you want to help people with exercise? And I thought, do you know what? Exercise actually really helped me. I was on medication and going through counselling and stuff for depression.
Wow. Okay.
And after it sounds really like easy, but I'd been doing a little bit of exercise for about 6 months or so, just going to the gym, and it really, really helped. And I came off my medication. I didn't like taking it anyway, but I just kind of thought, well, I don't need it anymore. And started personal qualification.
I don't want to skip over so being on medication, being technically, so what doctors are saying, you're depressed, here's some pills. Did you ever get, like, during that time, was there something particular happening, or did you just not feel right and you couldn't put your finger on it, just so that people get a sense of?
Yeah, sure. It had been ongoing really since I was about 14, and I didn't address it until the end of uni, when I was like 21 by then, really.
And how did it manifest?
For a long time.
Day to day, like, what was it like?
Day to day, just withdrawing from people, feeling like I was living two lives, like I was, face I presented to the world and behind the scenes face. Suicidal thoughts. Sorry for anyone who might be triggered by that.
Sure, but that's what I want to ask, right? Because people see what you're doing, what I'm doing, they think we've got it all together. They don't realize that we've spent, actually, I've spent time in 12-step programs, I've had coaching, I've had therapy and all of that. So it's why I want to bring it up, so that people get that you can have suicidal thoughts and still go on to be successful and sort things out and be fine and all of that. So it's really, thank you for sharing, that honestly about, what you're dealing with.
Absolutely. And just self-destructive behaviors and things like that. So drugs and everything.
Me too. And what got you into exercise? So what would you say to someone now who's, got a face onto the world that everything's fine, but actually goes home or internally just really feels terrible? What got you to do exercise? Like, what was it was it an accident? Did someone say to you, look, dude, go and work out? What happened?
So actually, I've always been quite active, and I was doing gymnastics from like the age of 7 to 11, and then playing netball and things like that. But I hadn't actually put it together until I went to a counselling session. And I'd said to my counsellor, oh, when I'm playing netball, everything kind of goes away. Like, I'm not thinking about anything. I'm just thinking about the game, and I'm thinking about what I'm doing in the moment. And she said, well, why don't you just try like going to the gym and doing a little bit more of that? Because netball had finished by then, because I was in the last year of uni. So I thought, what, I lived not far from a gym. It was like pure gym. It was like £10 a month, something like that. So I just signed up, and I just kind of went 10 minutes walk on the treadmill, walk there, 10 minutes walk on the treadmill, go home. And that, like,
wow, that's really useful for people to get, right? Because people think, like, I can go to a gym now and feel less intimidated. I wouldn't say I don't feel intimidated, but for someone who's never been into a gym, and we're talking about like, just go to your local gym, it's like, actually what you did was you walked to the gym, you walked on the treadmill, you went home. So anyone who's listening to this thinking, I can't go to the gym, it's like, that's how basic we start, right? And then what happened after that? So then you just started doing more at that gym?
I started doing a bit more. And just, it just built from there, really. Once I started my personal training qualification, I learned lots more about exercise. But up until then, I'd just been doing basic stuff like treadmill, use the machines, that kind of thing. Nothing really advanced or anything. Didn't know how to pick up a barbell, didn't know what to do with a barbell. So which is crazy for where I am now.
And so you started doing exercise, you started feeling better, and then getting off the medication, was that done with a counsellor, with the doctor? Did you just kind of naturally go, don't need this anymore?
That's happened? I literally, so it's not advisable, but I just stopped taking them. That was it. Done. Don't want to take these anymore.
Amazing. And it's, I think the thing to underline for people listening is, it was exercise. You didn't do anything, and the initial exercise was walking. So anyone listening to this thinking there's some magic bullet or magic pill, and I don't think this matters whether it's depression or your money doesn't work or you hate your job, often the answers are really simple. They're not easy, but there's all this complex way of like going to therapy and taking pills and doing all this. Actually, the thing that did it was exercise. You got out and you did something that was physical, which I don't think can be talked about enough. I mean, Joe Rogan talks about it a lot on his podcast as well, about just doing physical exercise. And I totally resonate with that. I mean, I just feel so, and for those that you don't know, Sabrina's also my PT, so I go and do exercise with you once a week, and it literally changes everything. So
I think it works really in two ways. I think it's a way, it's an outlet of energy and, you know, built up energy and things like that. And also it's a retraining of your brain to focus on being present and being in the moment. I find with depression and anxiety, it's very much either looking backwards or looking forwards. So depression, you know, looking backwards on what I've done wrong, who I've been, like being ashamed, and anxiety more looking forwards, like worrying about the future and what's going to happen. And I think exercise takes you out of all of that and just brings you to being present and focusing on what you're doing in that moment, and it trains your brain.
You have to, right? Yeah. I think what's interesting that I've experienced when I work with you is that I've often shown up feeling like, you know, my head is telling me I'm tired, I can't do this, you know, why am I coming to exercise? And then my body gives me a whole different, my body can do it. Like, you're giving me a weight and my head's going, I'm so fucking tired, I can't lift this weight. And my body's going, yes, you can. Fine. And then my brain's going, oh, wait, so what I'm thinking isn't true. And it gives me this weird experience of, and I've heard it a lot, right? What you think and what you feel is not necessarily true. But exercise is the one thing that's actually shown me that, and actually gone, oh gosh, what I feel really isn't true. Because I feel like I can't lift a feather and I've just lifted a personal best. So it is, you know, it's a magical experience for sure for getting into one's body. And okay, so you started doing personal training. You're not on antidepressants anymore. You're getting the exercise works. You're now understanding that PT, why it works, and you kind of discovered it without knowing it, and now it's affirming everything that you knew. So you do a personal training qualification. Then what happens?
Did a 12-week PT course, then got a job at Fitness First PT in there. And started, basically I was self-employed then. From that moment, I left my job at the bar and I just went full-time self-employed. When was that? That was April 2012, April, May. By the December, I was like broke. So I was broke. I couldn't afford any money to put petrol in my car to go to work, to earn the money to put petrol in my car to go to work.
Ironic. And why was that?
I just hadn't planned. I hadn't planned anything. I hadn't planned really what I needed to earn. I hadn't taken the actions needed to earn that money. And I was just running in a deficit every single month, really. And then what did I do then? I got another job. I got a second job at Lloyd's Bank, at Lloyd's Banking Group, on their own bank. So then I was working nights at Lloyd's and then PTing during the day then. And did that for about 6 months before I burnt out. And I was like, this doesn't work. Back to depression.
Brilliant. The cycles of business and success and life. And so then what happened?
So then I left Lloyd's Banking Group and I got a different kind of personal training job and a waitressing job. So the personal training job that I was in before, I had to pay rent to the gym. Whereas the one that I went to, I didn't have to pay rent. I just had to exchange my time. So I was doing hours then. So I did that. And then I did that for both jobs again for about 4 months. And then January 2014, I went, this isn't working. I just need to commit like full time. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And just went from there, really. And just, I don't know what the switch was, whether it was just like, right, there's nothing coming to save you. You've got to just jump in with both feet. And then I just ended up going full-time self-employed as a personal trainer and built from there. And what was that? It's 2014, 8 years ago now.
And how did you get your clients at that point? So anyone listening going, yeah, okay, that's fine, but how did you do that?
I think I've been a PT there then for 2 years, so I built up quite a few clients over the couple of years. And I also joined an agency I paid like for a territory basically. So anyone, the agency would advertise, and then anyone who came through and inquired through that territory would get passed to me as a lead. So it was just that of getting more leads in and having more conversations with people. I also joined BNI, so that was a massive thing too.
We're on Wednesday, or at a meeting on Wednesday.
So BNI really helped networking and just putting myself out there a bit more.
And what was it like when you joined BNI, which for those of you that don't know is a networking event that meets at 6:30 a.m. folks, so it doesn't interrupt your office day hours or just general working hours. Generally 30 to 40 people in a group, same people every week. You've got to show up every week. It's very structured, so people who don't like the structure tend to go, BNI, I don't like it, but actually it's repetitive, it's structured, the same people are in the room, it's not flighty networking like a lot of networking things. And often quite a lot of serious people in suits. And so you're showing up as like, yay, PT. So there are yay people in there, because the group I joined as a chef, it was kind of the same. I was like, I'm a chef, you're all in suits. But there were actually quite a lot of creatives. So it's kind of cool. But what was yours like? What was your experience?
Our group was really fab. So I joined Intrepid, which is where I met current business partners. And it was a good mix actually, and the I guess it's called the president now. I can't remember what it's called at the time. But the president,
I think it was director before, maybe.
Darren Haynes, was very welcoming, and he's quite outgoing, and just the group was really welcoming. And then as someone who I would definitely not have put myself out there before, as someone who doesn't put themselves out there, or didn't put themselves out there, having to stand up each week and give a 60-second speech about yourself is pretty terrifying.
That's public speaking training ever, I think, like small and regular.
By the end, I think I was a member for 2 years, and by the end of the 2 years, it's just because it's the same people each week, you get comfortable, and it does help you build confidence. And I certainly was more confident coming out of it. And I made a lot of contacts and people who were willing to give me a go and like try out my training services and stuff and refer me on. So I really built a lot out of it.
And when did the powerlifting, like, how did you go from I'm going to walk to the gym, spend 10 minutes on a treadmill, walk home, to being a British powerlifting champion? Is that accurate description? What's the accolades that you now have? Just so people get that you didn't start off being a powerlifter. You started off with depression, walking to the gym, 10 minutes on the treadmill, walking home. And now just tell us a bit about your world of powerlifting and what your accolades are.
I've been powerlifting since 2015. I've won 4 British championships, and I've competed at Europeans and World Championships. Last year at the World Championships, I came 3rd in the deadlift. I won a bronze medal, and I came 5th overall. So
amazing.
I deadlift 200 kilos.
Deadlift, and I'm like, okay, that just made it look like I lifted a feather. So what are your personal bests that you can share with people so they get how strong you actually are?
Sure. So my best squat is 162.5 kilograms.
That's like
best bench
5 times more than I lift now, I want to say.
Yeah, roughly.
A lot. And I find that heavy.
It's quite heavy. Bench press 97.5 kilograms, and deadlifts 200 kilograms, weighing just under 63 body weight.
Amazing. And you started off walking to the gym, walking on a treadmill and walking home. So how did you get from that to doing that? What happened?
When I was doing my PT course, as I mentioned, I didn't have any clue about how to lift a barbell or anything. So it kind of started learning there. And then when I was working in the gym, a lot of my kind of PT friends were more into weights and that kind of thing. So I was really interested in what they were doing and learning more about that, because up until then I'd been doing more kind of aerobic style, cardio style exercise and things. So I started learning how to squat, bench and deadlift. And I saw one of the guys one day, like he was like deadlifting 100 kilos or something. I thought, you know what, I can pick that up. So I went and picked it up. And yeah, the guys, one of my other friends was like, you know what, you're quite strong. Like, why don't you try out a powerlifting competition? Me having no idea what powerlifting is, I was like, sure, why not? You know, I'll give it a go. I like lifting. So yeah, we went to our first. My friend and I drove up to Swansea for our first competition together, and I remember one of the girls there who'd done a few competitions. She was asking us, you know, what weights are you thinking of opening on? What's your first lift going to be for your squat? And we were like, oh, I think we'll open on 100 kilo squat or something like that. And she was just like, what? She's like, what? For your first one? Yeah. So did that, and just, I don't know, just something about the environment and the competition just gave me a real buzz. I really, really enjoyed it. And I just went from there. I just was looking for more competitions and what else can I do. So that first one, I qualified for the British Championships actually in that federation.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Brilliant.
It's just something about, again, it's that presence of like, you can't focus on anything else. It's just you and the bar, and you have to lift the weight. That's it, no question.
Yeah. I guess it's the same as, you know, the first time you walked on the treadmill, that wasn't easy. And it's the same, I think, with any kind of training. If we don't push ourselves to the next level, it becomes, actually, our minds can wander. We can do that, you know, like you could walk 10 minutes on the treadmill now and your mind would be all over the place and you could be anxious and all that. But when you're trying to lift 200 kilos, you know, it can't. So there's a level to which as well, I think it's really useful for people is to get that actually keeping going and keeping uplifting. I mean, there's a whole standard in my book based on you and your Candice and some partners you were working with before. Sorry, I can't remember their names.
Casey and Candice.
And Candice, of that, like that inch further and just going a little bit more. But it's like you never let me in a training session do the same thing. We're always putting a little bit more weight on, or you're going, oh, just move that an inch that way. So it gets harder. So the presence is always there.
Yeah.
So I guess then you end up doing things like British Powerlifting Championship if you keep doing, you know,
a little bit more each time. Absolutely.
And talk a little bit. So you also now, so your now husband, future father of your child, is also powerlifting and is a coach.
Yeah.
And you guys have a donut barbell, which is the kind of stuff you do together. Just for if people are listening, going, "Oh, what is this? How do I?" Because you still coach, right? You still do powerlifting,
coaching online. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I met Jake that year as well, actually, and he had an interest in powerlifting. He was in a different federation, so we just happened to have the same interests. And we met in a gym because he's a personal trainer too. And we just kind of clicked from the first moment, so we really got on. And his thing was he could eat a donut every day and still be lean. He's pretty shredded. And basically that's how donut barbell came out.
Awesome. I've never thought to think, why have you got donut in the name? I was like, okay.
So donut barbell is it's all about helping people get into powerlifting and coaching drug-free powerlifters, which basically people who aren't enhanced by any kind of performance enhancing drugs. So
and is that a big problem in your industry? I have it that it's just a big problem in sport total after listening to the I can't remember the guy that was done for bicycling on drugs.
Lance Armstrong, is it?
Lance Armstrong. And after listening to him talk to Joe Rogan, I was like, man, they're all doing it. He just got scapegoated. Is it kind of the same in powerlifting where everyone's doing stuff to...
Yeah, I think when you get to elite sport, it does become a problem. The federation that we lift in is a tested federation, so we're tested under the same kind of rules as Olympic athletes would be tested under. And I think with powerlifting, though, I think the saving grace is that it's not like a professional sport, so there's no money really in it. So that tends to kind of mitigate how many people do take performance enhancing drugs. I think when money becomes a factor, then people are willing to do a lot more in order to win.
To get the money to win and all that. Okay, that's really interesting. All right. And so I think the other thing I want to share into what you're saying, for anyone going, oh, I could never powerlift, me neither, until I realized that Sabrina was training me to be a powerlifter without me even realizing. So just to be really clear, training to be a powerlifter doesn't necessarily have to be the game, but for me now that you've enlightened me to the fact that you're basically training me to be a powerlifter, because I came to you for like strength and flexibility, right? And wanting to live to 140 and have a goal of doing a flag and all of that.
Yeah.
Actually, training to be a powerlifter is just a way of doing that. And actually the strength side of it is a brilliant training program. So if anyone's kind of listening going, well, I don't want to be an Olympic champion, it's like, you don't have to be, but the point is that powerlifting is, I mean, I couldn't speak to the science of any of it, but the whole lifting weights and just the power that gives our bodies, there's no other exercise like it in my understanding. Is that
yeah, absolutely. I'd say that. Yeah, it's a great training in resilience, and not just building strength in your body, but strength of mind as well. So I would I think it's fab.
Yeah, I can really relate to that, actually. I would say since working with you, I feel stronger, so I feel even more unfuckable with.
Yeah.
Because I'm physically strong. I'm like, come get some. I mean, I'd be useless, right? If anyone vaguely strong, especially a man, wanted to actually fight, I'd be like, oh, I don't do jiu-jitsu, so I don't know how to actually then, grapple with them. But there's a level to which the paradox is, because I feel strong and I stand up straight, no one's going to actually mess with me, so I don't have to fight. It's a funny thing, isn't it? So I think it's really powerful to share with people about, you don't have to do it to be a powerlifter. You can do it because actually if you feel strong, then less people mess with you, and then it's that whole thing, isn't it? I feel much more confident when I'm fit, when I'm flexible, when I'm strong, when I know I can pick both my kids up and do squats, I can roll around on the floor with them, all of that world. So and if people do want to come and work with you, just so that they get it, because if people are listening to this and like you and they're like, oh, I'd really like to work, it's not like you're not training people per se. You are training people to be powerlifters, actually do powerlifting, but also people can come and work with you to get strong and resilient and all the rest of it without having to go to competition, right?
Absolutely. That's no problem at all. Cool.
I just don't want anyone to miss that point. It's like, yes, Sabrina's successful. You don't have to want to be a powerlifter to do that. And then keep going forward. And where does accountancy come from? So there's probably a little piece about, we met whilst you were at BNI, and then you and Grant and John and Luther are in my very first joint venture group. So I'm forever indebted to you guys for, giving me a chance and vice versa. And now you're doing stuff that's just epic, although probably doesn't, again, it's a bit like you used to walk in the gym and now you powerlift. You started off buying a little house in the valleys, and now you guys have just closed on a deal for 31 flats. Whereby you guys as a company put down 60,000. Which to most people is like, oh my God, how did you do that? The less glamorous side is it's negative cash flow. There's a lot of issues. There's a lot of problems to fix, yada, yada. But in the long run, it'll be good. So you're powerlifting, you're doing PT, you're with the guys that are now in your joint venture group. You start doing your money, property stuff. Accounting.
So I've always really enjoyed working with numbers. I love maths, and I've always liked that. I've always been interested in accounting, and especially coming from a place where I haven't had money. Just like how do people manage their money? How does that work? And especially working with you through Money Mastermind, that was amazing and really helped me understand money a lot more. So when coronavirus hit 2020, 2 years ago now, I and kind of the whole industry was changed. We also had to start working online. The gyms were closed down and everything, and Jake and I were kind of family planning at that time as well, I was thinking about what if we have a kid, and what can I PT for the rest of my life, and what else can I do? So when lockdown happened, it was really the perfect opportunity to explore what else there was, and accountancy was something, as I said, that I've been interested in.
And you are the person in the group that does the spreadsheets, that stays on top of the numbers, that naturally that was just your thing, right? Because I encourage all of you to do what you're good at, not what you're bad at, and try and make it better. So you were kind of, from that sense, it's no surprise, but there's a big jump from being good at detail and liking a spreadsheet to like, I'm going to be an accountant and actually do this.
Yeah. And it just, I was like, I could do this. I can do it. It's something I can do from home. It's something that I can do remotely, you know, with the way that technology and the way that accounting has changed. It's something you don't have to be in an office anymore. You don't have to do everything on paper. So it's really accessible now. And I just thought it'd be the perfect time to train in something new, you know, with the whole world being on pause. So I thought, I'll do it. And here we are 2 years later.
And interesting as well, in a world where people are going, oh, all jobs are being automated, including accountants and solicitors. I mean, I would argue that, yes, that's true. And like, I still really value my accountants and my bookkeepers. It's like, I'm not doing that stuff myself just because there's a product called Xero or QuickBooks or whatever. Someone still has to run. It's a bit like saying a washing machine kind of automated women out of the home. It's like they sort of did, but someone still has to put the washing in the machine, take it out, dry it, fold it, put it away. There's no machine doing that. And accounting, I have it, is the same.
It doesn't do it for you. You still have to know how to work it, and you still have to know all of the terminology and where to put things. And and there's going into people's QuickBooks and Xeros and going, what is going on in here? When they're trying to do it themselves. It just, because you've got the software, it doesn't mean that you can do the same as an accountant or a bookkeeper would be able to do. And I think that the adverts that are like, oh, it's making tax easy, and
yeah, right. It's like, just have Xero. It'll just do it all for you. And I'm like, okay, so we've got Xero. I mean, I've always done this alongside an accountant, and I didn't go for Xero for ages because I was like, we have an accountant. What's the point? But actually, when we got Xero, you have to link it to the bank account, but you still have to reconcile everything. Yes, sure. It automates a lot, but like you say, you've still got to go in and actually do it. And allocate it and understand. If anything, I'd say we now have to understand accounting more than we did before when we just handed it all over. Like, if you want to automate your accounting, you actually have to understand what accounting is and does versus
absolutely
just handing it over. Which, from a money coach point of view, I think is great, because if people understood how money works, then we can make more of it and maximize, income and reduce expenses and all the rest of it. So you now qualified as a bookkeeper, qualified as an accountant, or just about to be?
Qualified as an accountant, yeah.
So you can take people's bookkeeping on. I love that, because then any of my groups, and it's just like, Sabrina just understands the business because she's in the joint venture business, but also, you actually love doing it. So I have it that you're really accessible. So if someone's listening to this and they're a new business and they're just like, oh God, what do I do? They can absolutely come to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I love working with like sole traders, new businesses, and just helping people get to grips with their money and how to operate, like simple things like have a separate bank account for your business and your personal money.
By the way, everyone who's listening, if you're listening in the background, listen up now, because this is where the gold starts. That sounds really obvious. How many people do that?
Not many.
That's my experience too, right? One of the things on Money Mastermind is let's separate out the accounts. Let's organize all of that. So if people are listening to this and they're thinking about starting their business, or they've got a side hustle, top tip first is get your own bank account that's your personal, and get a business bank account and keep them separate.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be a business. You can have a separate personal account. If you're a sole trader, you can just have 2 personal accounts, for one that you do all your business stuff from and one that you do all your personal stuff from. And it just makes it easier to separate stuff out when it comes to the end of the year and you're going back through all your accounts and everything. You can really just say, look, this is what happens through the business account, rather than trying to kind of filter through what's what.
Oh, that Starbucks coffee wasn't a business meeting. That McDonald's Deliveroo was something else. All of that world.
Yeah.
What else would you say that people need to do that they just don't? It's like, once you've said it, everyone's going to go, well, duh, but actually most people don't do it.
Save for tax.
Shock horror! How do you say to people, so you say save tax, and we go, okay, great, I'm going to save tax. How do I do that? Like on a really practical, just like if you're going to start going to the gym, walk to the gym, get on a treadmill 10 minutes, walk home. How do people start doing that?
So it's simple, but it's not easy. But 30% of your income you should put in a separate account.
30%, Sabrina. Yeah. I can't save 30%. There's no money there, is what people will say. And what do you say to that?
I mean, yeah, I don't know what to say to that, to be honest. Like, let's have a look at your expenses. Like, where are you? Where is the money going? Like,
yeah. Because the reality is that's what's going to happen, right? There's going to be a tax bill. Absolutely. Even if it's not in the first year or two, it's coming for sure.
And I mean, if you're absolutely convinced that they're, all your expenditure is business expenditure, then it's a good idea then to look monthly and actually look at your profit for each month and see it, and then you can save like that instead, 20% of that.
Yeah. And there's an argument to say as well that if a business is not making any money, then there's also, I mean, it kind of, even just that, like say 30% for tax, if people go, well, I can't, there's no money there, there's an argument to say, well, let's have a look at your business. Like you say, let's have a look. Like, something's not working, right? If you're not making enough money, then there's a problem. Like if you're not making profit and you're not making income. So separate bank accounts, save 30% for tax. Where do you suggest people do that? Just literally have another account that's like a savings account.
Yeah, have a savings account.
Save it out.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Just take it out, take it away. I tell you what's actually, Starling is really good for that because they have spaces, and the space takes so although the money's still in your bank account, it just takes it off your balance, so you can't see that it's there.
Yes, psychologically it's gone. And how? So here's a question: what's the best way for people? Is there a way of automating that, or do you do it weekly, or how do you suggest people do that so it's easy?
Standing orders are a pretty good one. Just set up a monthly standing order. If you know roughly
and then
what
adjust
you're going to be. Yeah.
Okay. What else? What else do people do that's just like, oh, don't do that, it's going to cause a problem later?
When they have a limited company, say like if you're a sole director, shareholder of a limited company, treating the limited company as if it's your money, so that's really something to get, is that a limited company is a separate entity to you. A lot of people don't get that, so they treat it much like they would if it was their personal, like a sole trader, personal business, but it's not. So then the difficulty then is if you've taken out too much money by the end of the year, is then you have to pay some of that back because there'll be profit in the company that you'll have to pay tax on. So really, you really need to treat that as if it's a separate thing, and make sure you're either taking it out as salary or make sure you know what the profit is so that you can save your tax for it and then take dividends out after.
And I guess in a way that's the whole world of, because the way you do accounting is monthly and you're reconciling monthly with people, right, and staying on top of it, you could actually have that conversation with people and work that out as you go. So this old idea of, as one of my clients, Rob from J Out Board on Sunday, he's from farming background, and he was like, farmers just walk into the accountants on like the 28th of January with like this file of dirty, muddy, crumpled up receipts and go, there you go, and the deadline's in 2 days, but actually they've had that paperwork since the end of April the year before and could have easily done it. That kind of way of doing accounting, I mean, some people won't even realize that exists because of this way of kind of doing stuff monthly and staying on top of it. So I have it, there's no excuse anymore for actually monitoring and knowing what I mean, that's where Xero and automation and QuickBooks, whatever, have really come into their own, haven't they? Because you can literally be on top of what happened that month, print off reports, look at things, understand it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also has eliminated the need for all that paper as well, because you can scan things, upload it, and then you can throw the paper away because you've still got that record. So it just keeps everything a lot simpler and a lot less time consuming at the end of the year. So if you're keeping on top of it month to month, you can even estimate what your tax bill might be at the end of the year. So then you know exactly what you need to save. So yeah.
And what would you say to people who are starting out and they're like, oh, do I need a limited company? Do I sole trade? How do I decide? What do you say about that?
It's really kind of on a case-by-case basis, but one of the things about having a limited company is that you've got an extra set of accounts to do. There's more kind of paperwork and admin stuff to do. So if it's just going to be you, then to start with, then really look at what you're expecting your income to be, and if it's not going to be significant in the first year, then you're probably better off being a sole trader and just keeping things small to start with. Yeah. But then if you're going into the whole world of like having employees and things like that, then you might need a more like a limited business structure. But it really is like on a case by case.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really powerful point to make as well. And it's in the world of the right advice for the right person at the right time. And if we just went do it like this, it might not be the right advice, because it depends what that business is. I mean, like for my business, I've literally only just gone limited for that reason, that I started coaching and it wasn't that big a deal because I sort of came into it, started with you guys as my first group, and now it's turned into this thing that actually really needs managing and taking care of. And I'm getting into VAT thresholds and different kind of tax and all the rest of it. So
and with a limited company, there's lots of legal obligations and things like that. So you have to submit accounts a certain time, and you do.
Yeah,
there's a lot more to take on. Yeah.
Yeah, and like you say, you are ultimately responsible. Like you're another legal entity. I've now got a property company and a coaching company, and then there's me to manage, and then there's some properties that are in my personal name, and it gets complex, right? It gets, you've got to manage. I now have to have meetings with my accountant to go, okay, how are we dealing with this income, and dealing with it like prior to the year end, so that we can actually do things. Whereas when I first started out, it was kind of really basic: income in, expenses out.
Yeah.
Yada, yada, yada. What else do you say to new businesses or people thinking about doing a business, but they're not sure, and they're in a job and they're wondering if it's worth it? What's the things that you see that people like, mistakes people make?
Not knowing how much they need. So that was one that so how much do you need to cover your bills, and how are you going to get that? Like, what is your pricing structure? How many clients you need? What are the actions that you need to take? And really just kind of get into grips with the plan, and like plan ahead for like 6 months or something, and assume that you might not necessarily hit your targets as well. So a lot of businesses don't make a profit for a year, so it takes a while to build up.
Would you say that things just take longer than people think they're going to? So there's a whole planning bit there around like, I'm going to get this many clients by this time, and this time next year I'll be and
I'm going to get like 15 clients by next month, and then it would be 5, and then so it's really and if that does happen, then it's adjusting the plan as well. So it's not just like, right, this is my plan and I'm sticking with that. It's really a fluid thing. So you look at what happened for the month and okay, what do I need now for the next month? And it is a really fluid thing, and being flexible with it is important.
Yeah. And how do you get people to plan? This is a genuine question. Like, I have all sorts of tools in my coaching practice for getting people to plan, getting them to use it. Whew, different game, right? I mean, even within your JV group, there's like, some of you just go, and then others of you go,
I don't like to plan. I don't. Yeah, that's a good question, actually. I guess I keep the contact with people. So what I do offer with a lot of people is having like a monthly call with them, just to see how they're getting on with stuff and staying in contact. Yeah. So rather than just being like, you need to do this and go away and get on with that, it's a lot more. I guess I get that from personal training, of being a bit more like hands-on and being a bit more like coaching people in how to do that kind of thing. Yeah. So I think if someone's naturally a planner, then they'll do it anyway. But if if you're not naturally into planning and that kind of thing, you might need a bit more support.
Yeah, it's interesting actually. I hadn't made that connection of like actually being a PT and then being an accountant. You get what it takes to get people to do stuff. So then bringing that into accountancy is really powerful. I mean, that's massive.
So a lot of it is it's where are you now, where do you want to get to, and what are the steps in between that you need to do in order to get there, which is very much personal training as well. So
and again, simple but not easy, right? It's just And so, and what's next for you? So where are you going? So you're now doing accounting, you've got a baby on the way, you're a powerlifter, you do PT.
So
get financially free with property as well.
Got a lot going on. So what's next for me is probably moving online. I think completely. I think with the baby on the way, being able to be flexible and work from home is definitely going to be helpful. So I mean, we have a gym in our back garden as well now, which really helps because clients can come to me. But I found that being able to work remotely has just it's just opened up kind of a lot more time for me. I'm not traveling places, I'm not tied to meeting people, and I can still be effective, you know, in helping people. So
And where does your accounting business go ultimately?
God, that's a very good question. So I have it that I probably just like to just be me and someone else, just one other bookkeeper, and just be working with property businesses and sole traders. So that's just, I'm not planning on having a massive accounting empire, but just enough to keep ticking over and to pay the bills, really. So
And then it's an interesting question, and it's really, I think, like, thank you for sharing that. I mean, because we have obviously coach-client relationship both ways, right? You PT with me and vice versa with, you know, money and property stuff. And it's really, I think we kind of forget that in some ways the coaching relationship is always like bigger, more, and actually just going, do you know what? I just want to do this much and that's cool. And I'm not building a big empire. It kind of gives people permission to do that. Rather than this, like, you must be big, you must be this, you must have lots of employees, you must have aspirations to take over the world. And then, you know, most people are actually feeling inadequate, insufficient, and just like, I'm never going to do that, therefore I'm a failure. Whereas actually when, you know, people like yourself come on a podcast like this and go, I just want to work with some property companies and sole traders, and that's enough, because actually I've also, I mean, it's not, I have it, you are still taking over the world. You know, we did mention just now that the latest property deal you guys have done, you took over 31 flats. You know, basically bought another property company. So it's not that you're kind of playing small, but it's you choosing what you want to do in each sector. So within the accounting, you're doing that. Where's your powerlifting going?
Powerlifting, I'm going to keep powerlifting until I'm like, till death, probably.
So you just keep
and
going.
You can do that. So there's actually categories that go up to 70 plus, like you can do as long as you want to. And
then property, I have it that same kind of sky's the limit. And you started, I just want people to get as well, because it all sounds so glamorous, doesn't it? We took over 31 units just now, and it's like, but actually it took 2 years to get that over the line.
2 years from when, probably even 2.5 from when we just started talking about it.
And you started joint venture in 2017, I think, and it's 2022 now, so 5 years. But there's a level to which it's like, actually, that still feels quite, when I say that, I'm like, that's still quite quick. And if I look at, do people actually stick at something for 5 years? Generally not. And the beauty of the fact that you stuck at it for 5 years is you started off with Calm Street. Do I remember that right? And
Calm Street,
it was like 40 grand in auction. Can you remember the figures of it?
Yeah, 44, I think. 44 in auction.
Yeah.
I think we spent 13 doing it up.
Yeah.
And then we mortgaged it 75. And that was, and we've been renting it out for like
ever
3
since.
years.
You got like a couple of £100 a month profit.
Yeah.
And at the time, I think what's really interesting is at the time that was like all the money everyone could scrape together to get this one house, and there was a lot of worry about was it going to work, and it was like, oh my god. And then, you know, fast forward 5 years on, and you're like, okay, we just took over 31 units, and you bought yourselves negative cash flow in the short term. There's a lot of work to do. You basically bought yourself, 20 Carn Streets in one kind of thing.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And at the same time, you've done 2 big HMOs in Swansea.
We've got 2 HMOs in. Well, we've now got 4 HMOs, 3 HMOs, 3 HMOs, 4 single lets as well. So,
yeah. Plus all the flats. And you stayed and stuck it out, and magic's happened.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, I don't know if you've been doing people's accounts for long enough yet. There's something for me that's more of a like, I wonder how this shows up in accounting. You know, that like persistence and sticking at something at 5, like 5 years, and there's something magic about 5. There's something, because your journey as SSLGJ and the property company has gone alongside my coaching company journey, because you guys were my first proper group. You know, I had one-to-one clients before that, and I've been doing it, but you know, nothing structured in the way that I do now. So I'm 5 years on as well, and now it's like, so I started off selling 5 to 5 of you for £97 a month, and I think if you paid me up front, I gave you 2 months free, so it was like £970 each you paid for the year's coaching. And at the time I was just like,
I remember at the time being like, oh my god, this is a lot of money.
It's so much money. And like, you were thinking it's so much money to pay me, and I was thinking it's so much money to charge. And 5 years on, I'm like, meh, I've got 40 places on my money mastermind. It's £1,000 a piece. It's kind of easy. You know, it's not easy. Obviously, there's been a 5-year growth, but the feeling around it is like selling 40 places now is easier than it was to sell 4 places or 5 places back then. And that benefit of like growth. And I'd love to, maybe we should do this one day, or just start to look at companies over the 5 years. There's something about, and this has happened with my other JV groups, the first couple of years are really freaking slow, really freaking hard. It feels like there's no traction. And then all of a sudden it just goes woof. It's not like it's not a sort of straight line going up. It's kind of like it goes along. And there's probably people listening to this going, duh, Alex, there's loads of articles in economics about this. But it's like, I get that, but then it's theoretical, whereas this is like actually watching it happen with not just the property companies, but with my business, and that kind of straight line, nothing's happening, and then off you go.
Yeah. I think it was the same with my PT as well. Like those first couple of years, I was in and out of like, I can't afford fuel. I can't afford food. And
But you stayed, and you stuck at it. Something about staying and doing the same thing. I mean, if I look back, you know, I had a catering company and I ran a pub, and I never stayed long enough to really. My pattern was just as it started to go up, I'd be like, fuck, and I'd run away. I'd just be like, I can't deal with being this busy, and I was too much of a control freak and all of that. Yeah. But there's something magic about not leaving, whether it's becoming successful or not working yet.
Yeah.
How do people make that call to stay or stop?
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is.
So no. It's something that we look at as well in like fitness coaching and nutrition, and just like it's sustainability. What's, you know, if you keep choose a method that you're going to stick with, because it's the difference over time. Like it's not what you do in the next week or 3 months or 6 months. It's what you can do over the next 2-3 years that's going to really make a difference. Especially like, even if you look at bodybuilders, it's like it's taken them years to get to the level that they are. We see people that are afraid to put on like muscle. I'm going to get bulky. No,
especially women, right? They're like, I'm not going to lift weights, I'll turn into a man. It's like, it's really freaking hard to turn into a man if you're a woman.
Yeah. So I think it's just like you say, sticking at it. That's what makes a difference, really. It's an exponential curve. Yeah, for sure.
And there's something for me as well in the sticking at it and getting the lessons. You know, if I look back, it's really interesting. This conversation is kind of making me think about when I had a catering company and the pub, and I didn't stick at it. The irony was I wasn't sticking at it because it was successful and I was finding it too hard. But there's something about once I have actually, like my coaching business now, my property business, you know, I've stayed in them long enough to see that and to do the learning and do the work and all the rest of it. There's something as well, I think, about getting the help to figure out why it's not working or why it's working, but I wasn't working.
Yeah.
Rather than, again, you know, running away and doing that pattern. And so in PT, it's an interesting industry, right? It's a bit like the money industry where people go, have a beach body, start in January, and by July you'll be magically transformed into something that you'll actually never get to. And it's the same in the money world, right? A lot of money people are like, work with me for 6 months and you'll be a millionaire. And it's like, oh, please, come on. No. But how do you deal with clients' expectations in PT when they come to you and they go, I want to lose X amount, or, you know, whatever? How do you deal with that and speak to that?
So again, it comes back to, okay, what actions do you need to take in order to get there? Like what, and usually if it's losing weight, it's like, what sacrifices are you going to have to make? What are you going to have to take on? And are you prepared to do that? And like we talk about sustainability and we talk about like process goals and outcome goals, and I get a bit technical, but basically the outcome goals is
great.
It's the losing. So the outcome goal is like losing 7 pounds. Like that's what you want to happen. But ultimately it's just out there, like, unless you take actions to get there, and that's the process goals. So the process goals are more important than the outcome. The process then is going for a walk every day, you know, eating vegetables, drinking 2 liters of water, getting adequate sleep, not eating I don't know, cake every meal, or whatever it is. That's the process goals. And people focus over here on the outcome and then forget that actually the process is what's the important thing, and this will happen anyway. So it's really like getting people to enjoy the process, and that's why I really like strength training, because it's something tangible that people can enjoy and get into, and it helps with the sustainability of it and the sticking with it, because you get to finish strong and you focus on the positive things of just enjoying the journey, rather than, oh, why haven't I lost 7 pounds yet?
And then going on this weird cycle of like, actually that's really depressing, and then how do we make ourselves feel better generally with sweet things that knocks us off even more, and all the rest of it. And I guess that's really interesting, actually. I've never heard you say it like that before, but it's it's the same putting that onto business or to weight loss or to strength, is like actually focusing on the process, because it's such a cliche meme on social media, isn't it? It's like, focus on the journey, man, it's not the destination. But like, what does that actually mean? Like, how do you focus on the journey? It's like, well, actually, with a process goal, not an outcome goal, is really useful. So it's the same in business and accounting. It's like, well, what's the process and what's the timeline?
And you need both. So the outcome is important, because otherwise, what are you aiming at? But if all you focus on is the outcome, all you'll see is not having the outcome. So like, ironically, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I'm not there. And then it just becomes really, really demotivating, really.
And so if people are listening to this going, okay, great, so outcome, then they put the process goal in place, and then how do we communicate with people to be patient and allow it time and to keep going? What is it that has you keep going?
So a lot of it is having a reason or an inspiration rather than a motivation. So it's something internal. So for example, even like if you want to build your business, for me it's so that I can work from home and spend time with my child when I want to. That's inspiring to me, to be able to like, oh, but let's go out in the woods and have a play today.
Yeah.
And I haven't got that is a really, whereas if I'm just like, oh, I want to earn, I don't know, 50 grand this year, that I might be motivated for that sometimes, but when I want to sleep, I'm not want to work. That's 50 grand. I'm not going to get out of bed. So
yeah, there's that. There is that, right? Once you've got actually enough money to live, just money as a motivation is just probably the least motivating and inspiring that there is.
So it's finding, and then it's coming back to that. So because motivation comes and goes, and it's really finding something that's powerful enough to inspire you internally. So it's not an external thing of like, and coming back to weight loss of like, oh, when I lose weight, people will notice and they'll compliment me. So it's not doing it for the compliments and the external feedback. It's for the internal feedback of, I feel good about myself and that kind of thing. So it's really looking at something that comes from inside that is always going to inspire you to take the action, regardless of whether you want to or not. And that, powerlifting like that. So there's been days where I don't want to train, but I'll still train because I want to be world champion. So like that inspires me. Like, okay, well, what are the other world champions doing? They're not sitting around not training, so I better go and train.
And I mean, I always kind of joke with my clients. I say, I want to go to the gym on my way home. Like, I don't ever, really want to come to the gym particularly, but once I'm with you and once I'm driving home, I'm really freaking glad I did it. And I'm really motivated. But it's after the fact. What got me to you is the commitment of saying, yes, I'm coming. And I love your saying, which is part of the standards in my book, of you don't have to shit unicorns, just show up. And I can't tell you the number of times that has got me to the gym. It got me to the sea this morning. So I went cold water swimming this morning, so I didn't make it on Sunday. And I was literally like, I don't want to go. It's 5 a.m. My alarm's going off. I feel tired. And it was, I literally have your voice in my head going, you don't have to shit unicorns, just show up, which literally gives me permission to just, like, I've showed up at yours before, haven't I? And just been like, I fucking don't want to be here today, but, I'm here. And it's like almost giving that permission of actually just that consistent showing up is so powerful. Like going networking when we don't want to be seen, asking for a sale when we think we might be rejected. It's like, just do it in its messy, imperfect, and see what happens.
Give yourself permission to be bad at something or not do something 100%. Like, that's fine. As long as you're in it, you're still progressing. Like, you're still taking that step. It doesn't have to be great and rainbows and sunshine and
all the time.
That's where the learning happens. I think we just get so afraid of being disappointed or feeling negatively about something or failing at something that we just don't try because then we don't have to fail. But
then ironically we like fail even bigger because then we go, I'm such a loser, I never do anything. And then we've like, by avoiding failure, failed bigger than we would have if we'd have gone out and tried. Oh, life is full of paradoxes, isn't it? And what about the whole world of, let's talk about the fact that the world is fairly unfit these days, money and actual fitness and weight and all the rest of it. What do you say to people who are just like, they are nowhere near the weight they want to be, they're sick? I mean, what do you say about COVID that's happened and has taken people out of the game, literally like killed people? What do people do? Where do they start?
So I think it comes from that, like, wanting to get everything right and be perfect. Like, if you're miles away from your goal and thinking, I'm never going to be there, it's okay, break it down. What's reasonable to do? Like, what's reasonable to achieve? You might not be able to go to a class 3 times a week, but can you do once? Can you do a 5-minute walk? You know, it doesn't even have to be every day. Can you do a 5-minute walk twice a week? And I think people make things too big for themselves, and then get scared because they think I'm never going to be able to do that, or it's not sustainable, or it's not enough. Like 5-minute walk twice a week, are you kidding me? That's nothing. Like, why would I even bother?
Then like, don't even bother do that. Yeah.
Doing that? And then it becomes really easy to look for a magic pill or something easier. Well, if you just take this pill every day, then then you'll lose weight. That's a lot easier to do than going for the walk to start off with 5 minutes. If you mean,
well, and now ironically we're like, oh, it's easier to go and get my stomach cut out than go for the walk. That's where that actually ends up, right? Like now we are literally living in a society where it's easier to go and have surgery than go for the walk. It's easier to have surgery than cutting down sugar. It's easier to
and I think like a lot of the things as well is nothing to do with like the actual like exercise and eating. It's a lot of addressing other issues that are going on, like emotionally, and looking at why you have certain habits, and that a lot of it is we are really habitual creatures. So actually, in that sense, getting your stomach cut out is easier than changing your habits because our habits are so ingrained. So it's just like it takes sustained effort to change your habits, and you have to be really present. So that takes a lot of mental and emotional energy, and it's not just about having the willpower either. So I think it can be really hard to change habits, and it's the same probably you see with money as well. People just fall into the same patterns because that's just how their brains are wired. So it's changing that. So like, it is simple, as we say, it's simple, but it's not easy to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's why Money Mastermind is 5 months long with 18 2-hour calls for that. Actually, that reason. It's because actually coming on a 2-day weekend or something to change your money, you'll get all inspired, and then the habits won't change. Or if I got 5 months with someone and I like we've been working together for 5 years, it's like there's that way of like really getting into it.
So it's practicing, and I think it's that thing it's easier to have surgery, or it's easier to carry on as you are than it is to change, unless the pain is great enough, unless you're inspired to. So unless you're in so much like pain where you're like I've got to do something about this, or unless you find like an inspiration to do it, then it is really hard just to implement those changes on your own. And what was I going to say? And it's not sexy either. It's not sexy to say.
That's such a good point. That is such a good point. Like literally, it is not sexy, is it? Like none of it. Nothing that I do is sexy around money. It's like fucking boring. We're gonna have a spreadsheet. You're gonna work with me long term. We're gonna talk about £5. And that's so. Oh my god! I think I'm gonna. Can I use? I'm gonna use that as like, dudes, working with me is not sexy, but it's effective, and it's true, right? Because all the stuff that's like sexy, get rich quick, it'll all be easy, it'll all be fine. It's just a lie. It's literally a lie. And I never thought of that in weight loss and. It's, I guess, business accounting terms. Like running your own business is not sexy either, is it? It's just
no.
You're gonna have to deal with yourself. There's a whole world of pain. It takes time. Kind of boring all the time. Success isn't sexy. I like that. And the output is the end result kind of is, right? So the person that loses, huge amounts of weight or eventually makes a load of money looks really sexy. Like me saying, oh, you guys have just bought 31 flats. It's like, oh, that's really sexy.
Richard Branson with his island. Yeah, I want to.
Yeah. Like, oh, that's so sexy. Yeah. But the reality is there was nothing sexy in the process, in the over 2 years negotiating that deal, in the takeover, in the next 2 years renovating all those flats that need loving back into existence.
Yeah, so I think, coming back to your original question of like, what do I say about the world? And we're given a lot of the sexy, like we're presented a lot of that with none of the actually this is what you need to do in order to. We're not encouraged to do the process. We're just we're comparing on Instagram, for example. You're comparing other people's like, I don't know, show reels or whatever. So you see what look at how good and how great my life is, but actually you don't see what's going on behind the scenes or what is taken to get to where they are. And some people just plain fake it as well. So you're looking at something that isn't real.
Yeah, literally, like even if it's just one filter, it's still it's not real. Yeah. I think it's probably one of the reasons I like Grant and the Dawn Stalkers. So Grant is in your JD group, has also been on the podcast, is that I went swimming this morning and I've noticed this real thing where there's how I think everyone looks, which is the classic one for me, because I'm old enough to remember it, is the Baywatch scene of, everyone like coming out of the sea looking all sexy. Like in my head, this is like literally how it happens. In my head, that's how everyone looks on the beach. Yeah. And then I go dawn stalking and nobody looks like that. Like none of us do. Even the good looking ones and the fit ones don't look like the Baywatch picture. Yeah. And there's something really, I think it's probably why apart from the cold water addiction that I have and the endorphin hit, that aside, there's this realness around being there that's like, oh, this is what life's actually like. Mm-hmm. And also because life isn't like a Baywatch picture, I've got permission to not look like Baywatch and it's okay and it's normal. Whereas whilst I'm on an Instagram feed, and it's why I have this push-pull, love-hate with social media, and I go on it and then I don't. And then at the moment I have someone else do it for me. So I'm on there, but I'm actually not, because the scrolling just literally drives me nuts. It's not sexy. How are we going to sell that when sex sells? Come work with us. It's boring, hard, long. You'll need to be patient, and it's everything but sexy.
But you'll get what you want.
You'll get. But the irony is, you'll get the sexy at the end.
Yeah.
So there you go. We can still sell sex. We can still sell the sexy. It's just like, and you have to do all this first.
And this too. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, how do you and how do your clients deal with, mitigate, walking into a supermarket where I would say 90% of the stuff in there isn't actually food, where sales and marketing says, here, eat these biscuits for breakfast. They're now breakfast biscuits. How do we navigate that as human beings?
Yeah. Planning, preparation. The easiest one I would say is to actually don't go in the supermarket, get your shopping delivered and do it online. So then you're not going to remove the temptation, remove any barriers. But then if you don't have that luxury and you have to go in, then have a list of stuff that you're gonna go and buy and just go to those items. And have a little bit of leeway as well. So like have some specifically chosen things that you do want that are nice, and if you want biscuits or something, just like go, I'm going to get some ginger nuts today, and allow yourself something rather than being like, I'm going to be 100% on it, I'm not getting anything, because then as soon as that happens, it makes everything else kind of forbidden, and then it's sexy again.
That goddamn sexy just found its way back in again. Yeah, that's a good point.
So if you just it's allowing yourself not to be perfect, and like if you want something, then have it, and in giving yourself permission, then it takes the bad away and the shame and everything, and then you'll find you're a lot more free actually to choose what you want, rather than being like, oh well, I can't have it, so I'm going to have everything.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like switch off from it and kind of, I guess it's a bit like going to war. To be able to kill someone, you have to dehumanize them and make them kind of not real. This is a bit of a stretch to being in the supermarket. You're not killing anything, but you're like literally switching off kind of every sort of instinct and feeling and thing and just going, oh, fuck it, I'm just not going to deal with it, versus actually being present and conscious. And I mean, one way we deal with it in our house is that we make chocolate brownies, but they're full of coconut oil and almonds and all the good stuff, but they're still chocolate. I mean, my kids think 85% dark chocolate is the best thing ever, and I think that's the best thing ever, because you know, they don't know yet what's out there. They've seen had inklings, but you know, again, we don't go to the shops, so you know, that's a good point. I kind of forget that that's actually a really good way of doing it. I think the other thing that I find really interesting, it's a bit of a minefield. Like if people are just trying to figure out how to pay the bills, dealing with like what is food and what isn't food in the supermarket, or what is health, or how do they exercise, or any of that as well, just becomes this like, I haven't got time. Like the number of people that I know that I would say are conscious, awake, educated, you know, care. I think that's the biggest thing, care. And yet will buy meat that has come from places that I'm just like, please don't eat that. It's not me. It's horrific. Like, you know, for those that don't know, I advocate eating meat, you know, on a livestock farm. But it's that having the time to deal with everything that life throws at us as well. You know, how do you make those decisions? But actually, in avoiding it, people end up sick or broke or bankrupt because they didn't deal with it, and then it's even more expensive.
Yeah, and there's something about knowing. So, like with money in particular as well, and food, knowing the situation and being present to it kind of takes the fear away from it. It takes the significance out of it, because if you don't know, you don't know what you're dealing with. As soon as it becomes a known thing, you're like, right, this is what we've got. This is what's so, and okay, that's not what I want it to be. So this is what I want, and then you're back into, this is where I am, this is what I want, how do I get there? So it just makes it really, really, it gives you the power back. You can action things then to take control. And
getting the power back is an interesting one. There was a podcast I was listening to the other day, and I can't remember the guy that was talking to Joe Rogan. I can't remember his name, but he was talking about being a willing, he's basically does security for rich and famous people, and he also now talks about self-defense and how not to get into danger and all this. So he hasn't kind of translated it to where I went with it, but he was talking about it in that sense, and he was talking about being a willing participant in your own victimization. I was like, oh my God. I mean, he was talking about it in like, don't walk down a dark alley late at night if you're a single lone female. He was talking about it in that way. It's like, you've just put yourself in danger. You've just created a perfect situation for you to be a victim. And I was kind of like, actually, that's the same everywhere, isn't it? It's like, where are we participating and being like willingly helping people victimize us? So where are we willingly not paying attention to what's in the supermarket and then eating the food and then going, oh my God, this food has made me sick? It's like, yeah, you bought the damn food. Like you didn't check that whole world. It's so the whole getting your power back when you're actually conscious, it's part of that, isn't it? There's this level to which actually we're in charge. So the minute we give away power,
then it's not something happening to you, is it? It's something that you like. Yeah. Okay, I have the power here. This isn't something that I can't do anything about.
Yeah, and we all do it, right? Like I have coaches and I coach, and I still end up sometimes being a victim and going like, oh, this is happening to me. And then I kind of, usually you or Lucy or someone will go, well, let's have a look. You know, how is that? How are you being part of this? What, you know, how do we get our power back? So I guess in some ways there's a whole piece, isn't there, around actually us all getting that we are in charge and that we do get to say, and that to in the main, no one's ever doing anything to us.
Yeah.
We often, I mean, even in the putting food in our faces, we're literally doing it to ourselves. They're going, oh my God, I'm so sick, or I'm overweight, or I'm, I've got XYZ disease or arthritis or inflammation or whatever it is. And it's like we literally did it to ourselves whilst not really realizing it.
Yeah.
What else, Sabrina? What else do you say to people who are out there who are stuck and struggling, whether it be in there? I mean, it's really interesting actually having this conversation with you, because we deal in weight loss, money coaching, accounting, business, and actually the answers kind of end up being the same, whether you're talking to someone that's overweight or not flexible or starting a new business or hasn't got the money they want.
Yeah, a lot of the basics are the same, isn't it? It's planning and goal setting and progressive overload. So setting incrementally.
Progressive overload. There you are. That's one of the other standards. Love it.
Yeah.
And just tell people what that is. Just tell people your version of what structured progressive overload is.
So it's kind of like pushing yourself a little bit further each time. So just going back to walking. Walking is quite an easy one. So today I'm going to walk 5 minutes, and next week I'll do 6 minutes. So it's just like pushing it, and then the week after that I'll do 7 minutes. So it's structured in the sense that it's planned out, it's progressive in that you're keeping going, and it's overload in that it's pushing your limit a little bit further each time. So it will keep you growing without burning out or without burning out or getting demotivated or feeling like it's too hard kind of thing. It's just pushing that limit a little bit further each time.
Yeah, I think that's what made the difference for me when I worked with you as a PT versus going to classes, is that when you're in the class, and I used to go to like HIIT classes and boot campy, I'm a bit, for people who are listening who don't know me, I'm a bit nuts like that. I like doing stuff where someone's going to shout at me and call me an idiot and tell me to work harder, which was what I was kind of attracted to. But there was never any structured progressive overload in that. It was just like, do as much as you can. So it was like, everyone's got to do 20 press-ups. Well, I didn't used to be able to do press-ups. And now I can, because you've done the structured progressive overload with me. So you never tried to get me to do a press-up in the first place. We did it on an angle, and then we moved the angle down, and now we do it flat, but you've got a band around my around my chest, and I probably, I know I can do a few press-ups actually on my own now, and I've succeeded, but I did it by little rather than like, come on, give me 20 press-ups, even though it's like, well, I can't. It's just, I'm just a failure and it just doesn't work. So that whole way of doing it. And I think the other thing is I used to leave those gym classes beetroot red, sweating buckets, and kind of broken, really, if I'm honest. I mean, don't get me wrong, I got results, right? I lost weight, I kind of got stronger, but nowhere near as strong as I am now. And I just work an hour a week with you, just so everyone's clear. It's not even like I'm doing 5 hours a week in the gym. Like the number of people I know, and they're like, oh, I go to the gym every day. And I'm like, why? I mean, you aside, you do powerlifting and
I do 3 to 4 sessions a week. I don't go every day.
Brilliant. There we go. And you're a British champion and you're like 3 or 4 hours a week. And I'm kind of like getting stronger and stronger. I'm like, I do an hour a week. So when people are going, oh, I've got to lose weight, I've got to go to the gym, I've got to get fit, and I'm going to do 5 sessions a week, I'm like, it takes me 3 days to recover from the session with Sabrina. So I don't know how you're training the next day or the day after. And again, it speaks to time, patience, little bit, keep going, rather than that whole, that January. You guys must have seen it in the gyms in January when it's like rammed in January, and all the people that are always going to the gym hate January because there's loads of new people in the way who they know are going to be gone in February.
That's it. February is quiet again. It's just not taking the time to change the habits, and the habits that, like, you can't change everything at once. You have to do it gradually. You almost have to, there's habits built up gradually over time. You can't just switch them off.
And it's like do something for a lifetime as well, right? So it's like the whole restrictive diet or going to the gym for 10 hours a week or all of that, it's not sustainable, is it? So again, it speaks to, gosh, Sabrina, we're like the least sexy podcast ever. Guys, it's going to take you ages. You've got to do a little bit now and again. It'll be really boring, and it's going to take you much longer than much longer than you think. And if you follow it, you'll end up sexy.
That's it.
Yeah. What benefits do you think came out of coronavirus in the last 2 years? Because I mean, it's obvious the shit show that it was, right? We could say, but what good things do you think came out of that for you and others?
Actually slowing everyone down a bit. We couldn't go anywhere, and just for me it was appreciating everything that we have around us and appreciating the time that I have as well, and being forced to slow down. I actually took pleasure then in going outside and going for a walk and just looking at the environment around me, and again practicing that presence rather than trying to rush from one thing to another. So I think, when that option was taken away from me, it was, a good opportunity to just reassess actually what's important and what I value in life. And I found that actually I value experiences rather than things. So, so I'm now like a lot more appreciative, I'm a lot more like, oh, what can we go and do this week? What experiences can we have? And rather than, oh, I'm too busy to do anything. I'm too busy I've got all this work on and I can't, I don't have the time. We now make an effort. I do. So on a Sunday, I don't do anything really that's work related. I just completely go, right, how am I going to spend my Sunday in a way that's going to rejuvenate my spirit and like re-energize me for the week. So there's that thing of rest as well. So you need to rest so you can work just as hard the next time you have to work.
That's a busy.
And I also think it did actually make people focus more on their health. And even though we talked a lot, like the vaccine was a big thing, I think there was some focus on actually if you exercise or if you eat the right foods, then you're going to be less at risk and and healthier and I think and it brought our community together as well around us. So people were in need, and I don't know if you remember at the very start there were these little slips of paper that you could put through doors to say if you need anything, if you need your shopping done. So and we made friends with our neighbours out of that. We had a barbecue last weekend, and we're really good friends with our neighbours now.
And do you think that's because of COVID and because of lockdown and because you?
We probably wouldn't have spoken to them otherwise, but
And is there anything that you used to do that you haven't taken back? Like now everything's opening up and you can go back to the old ways, as it were. Is there stuff in that you do differently now that you won't?
I get the shopping thing. I get that at home delivery now, so I haven't gone back to doing a weekly shop at the supermarket. I think I don't. Sundays I don't work. I do nothing, and I'm at home a lot more actually. That's what I did. I gave up
commuting, I guess. Come back. Got the gym at home.
Yeah, I just thought, how can I do this from home? So I probably won't go back to driving back and forth to Cardiff twice a day ever again.
It's interesting, isn't it? That the stuff that came out that everyone went, you could never do that. Like you could never stop everyone. Like pre-COVID, it was like that's not possible. You couldn't do that to society, and yet the whole world literally stopped.
It showed us what's possible in life.
And I'd say probably sped up a lot of the whole. There was a lot of company narrative of, we can't trust people to work at home. And then it's like, well, you're going to have to. And then companies went, oh, actually, it worked okay. And there's arguments to bring people back and whatever. But I think commercial property would be really interesting now because actually companies that aren't going back to work or have downsized or have got rid of their properties altogether because their workforce is working from home. It's like, okay, so now what's going to happen to the high streets and the big office blocks and the units and everything that prior we thought we needed. And what's your property journey? What, you know, I kind of know this because obviously, you know, we talk a lot about it because we work together all the time on it. And I don't think I could say, like, where do you see yourself in like 10, 15, 20 years time? What does life look like then with everything that you're building? Gosh. Can you even imagine it?
No, I haven't. Yeah. So big picture. Yeah. For me, it's not necessarily a having, but it's like being relaxed and kind of free. And so yeah, we go traveling quite a lot, like 3 or 4 times a year. We get to see the world, and you know, the property business allows us to do that. But yeah, that's something I haven't gone that forward that far. So 20 years, what would I be? 50, 53? I don't know. Probably retired.
Yeah. Well, it's what does that look like? I think the interesting thing that's happened to me lately is I'm going, there's stuff that's starting to happen that I wanted, but I didn't really believe was possible. I was like, okay, I have enough coaches to know that I need to trust that's, you know, I can speak it out loud and I can say, you know, this much income and a livestock farm and bigger businesses and all, and I can say it all. And then it's a bit like you, there's outcomes and then there's the processes. And I have luckily worked with coaches who have helped me put processes in place, which means stuff's happening. Yeah. And there's a level to which my belief has to catch up that this is actually happening. Like the next house we're going to buy really is that house. And the next property deal I'm looking at the moment is a £1 million hotel, not a guest house anymore. And there's a level to which there's knowing what I want, but actually going, shit, we're actually making this much money. Shit, the property portfolio is doing that. Actually, you know, and it's kind of, yeah, it's something that's new for me to experience. And it's interesting coaching it because obviously I'm coaching people all the time. And it's like you've coached people around weight loss. And it's even like, I guess, in the strength stuff that we do, sometimes I'll come in now and I'll, you know, I'll go, that I didn't used to be able to lift the bar without feeling like an awkward, clumsy, crazy person because it was so heavy. And now I'm like, oh, this is okay.
Yeah.
There's a level of getting it that's like, oh, this is happening. Oh, it is real.
Yeah.
And then it's like, so if this is real and this is happening, what's next?
Yeah.
That to me is massive. It's like, if we could do this in 5 years, which, you know, is the main time frame we've just talked about because of SLGJ and your accounting and PT, it's like 20 years. It's like all that stuff that we kind of have as that sexy big dream. Maybe it is possible if we just keep doing the process and keep plodding.
Yeah, something I need to work on is wanting. What do I want? I don't know.
Yes, right. Like get our wanters going, and it, you know, including experiences. I mean, I kind of, when my last Money Mastermind course completed in February, and we did the workshop day in person because you guys work with me in person, but everyone else now is online, right? But they have a day in-person workshop, and I remember kind of half joking, but as it came out of my mouth, going, "That might be possible." So I have I've probably told you this before, but I have this thing about actually an apartment on the ship called The World would be really freaking cool to like just be able to go there, travel. They do some really cool stuff. They have some really cool speakers. It's getting to the point where I'm like, buying an apartment on a ship like that or having one built so that everyone within Money Mastermind and Joint Venture Mastermind and friends that we know, we could just have one built and use it like a massive HMO, but a ship. And it's like that. It's almost that like, maybe we could do that in like 5 or 10 years. Maybe that is actually possible.
Yeah.
So there's a piece then for you to go, oh.
Absolutely.
And how about, so you as a parent, what's the, so you want to spend time with, we kind of touched on this the other day, didn't we? But what do you say about bringing up a kid in 2022 and what's coming, and what's your kind of thing as a parent to be with them? How do you see that? How do you inspire the next generation that's growing up in a world that's moving faster than we can even contemplate?
Yeah, I think it's just I'm really big on quality time and spending time with them. So I would love to be able to just have them at home until they go to school, like till they're 5, really. And something that was really wonderful about my upbringing was that my mum was a science teacher, so we used to do experiments and things like that. So it would be great to just teach them how to be curious about the world and to be open to new experiences, and just to give them as many experiences as possible, really, getting out, meeting people and exploring the world around them and the environment, and just I don't know, just teaching them like the values that I feel are important.
Yeah, I guess I'm hearing it's the being, not doing, and the experience, not things again, isn't it? And then seeing, because I just, in some ways, I don't even dare to guess that when our kids, Rupert and Charlie are 4 and 2 this year, you're going to have a 0-year-old this year. But it's like, I don't even dare imagine in some ways where the world's going to be in 20 years' time with the way technology's going. Bearing in mind, 20 years ago, the internet was just starting. Email was kind of a thing, but no one. Business had been using it, but it was sort of social, but not. I can't remember how old Facebook is, but I don't think Facebook is 20 years yet. I think
Facebook was when I went to uni. That was the first year of it, so that would have been 2007.
Yeah. So in 15 years, we've gone from Facebook to, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, being able to automate accounting businesses, all the rest of it. So in that whole thing, we were talking about going straight, and then all of a sudden it goes up, and we're in the up now. So it's like it's just mind blowing. I don't even, people go, the old question people used to ask kids was like, what do you want to be when you grow up? It's like, what jobs are going to be around when they grow up? Like, what's possible? How do they, navigate that?
Yeah. And I think, it's more, I'm really into teaching them how to think linearly, how to like not just accept what's presented to them, and how to like reason things out. And that's going to be more of a transferable skill than kind of just learning things for exams, for example, and just be
when we were in school, we had to go and look stuff up. Now people just Google it and it's there. Like, you don't need to learn history anymore, because you could just Google it and you'll get an answer. It's interesting. It is interesting to see how the school system will go over the next 20 years as well, because of that. Like, literally, because Google just goes, well, you just Google it. Why I don't need to learn what happened to King Henry VIII, or remember how many wives he had or how they died. It doesn't matter. How do people get in touch with you if they like what you're saying? They're like, I could do this. I think one thing to say, actually, before I ask that, is what's interesting, and what happened to me when I was going up, doing networking and growing businesses, was that everyone always talked about have a team around you, and it was just like, how? Accountants are really expensive, and all these, people that, we've been with SLGJ on a meeting with lawyers and doing a property company acquisition, and it all sounds, now it's like, okay, that's just how you have a team. So I think the thing just for me to say to people listening is, you can now do that in a much more easy way. Like, someone could have you on their team as their accountant / sort of money person, like helping run the finances in the business for relatively little input. Like, it's affordable now for a sole trader to have an accountant on their team, whereas prior it would cost thousands of pounds a year and just be wildly not relative to the business. So if people are listening going, how do I get hold of Sabrina? I mean, we're going to put the links and stuff wherever we put this, but what are you looking for? Who are your favorite people? Is it mainly accounting? Is it powerlifting? Is it a bit of both? What do you want? Who you want to work with?
It's a bit of both, really. So, if you're interested in getting into strength training and learning a bit more about lifting weights, then you can contact me through Instagram, Inner Strength UK, or Donut Barbell, and just get in touch through there. And then for like accountancy and bookkeeping, I'm really like passionate about working with new startups, sole traders, property businesses. So sole traders and new startups, it's about kind of organizing your money, getting you kind of familiar with what you need to do in terms of getting your tax sorted and things like that, what you can and can't claim for, and just getting you on top of where you're going and what you really want to get out of your business. And then property businesses is kind of looking at, it's the same as that, but also looking at what each of your properties are doing, like which ones are making money, and organizing that and looking at the profit and loss for each property. And but yeah, you can contact me through email, sabrina@moremoney.uk, for any kind of bookkeeping and accountancy services.
Cool. And we'll put all the links everywhere that this appears, obviously. And I think the thing that I want to add to that is that it's very affordable, to the point of like, it's not cheap, but it's like so ridiculously affordable. So if you are a sole trader who's literally starting out and you want someone on your team and you want to stay on top of money, Sabrina is the lady to do it with. And yes, of course, there are other people out there. And what I'd say from a coaching perspective is, find people that resonate with you and that are on a similar journey and that are into what you're into and all of that world. And actually, I think it's never too early to start working with a team. When I sort of look around now and I'm like, wow, I have a PT and I have an accountant. I have a team of accountants and I have a this and I have a that, and it all sounds great. But actually it's really workable. It's just finding the right advice at the right time for the right person. So it's not that, is there a right time to get an accountant? Get a freaking accountant now and find the right person who's into your thing. It's like, don't go to Deloitte, who only deal with XYZ massive companies and just don't even understand your sole trader business, actually, because they deal with huge stuff. And it's the same with PT. It's like, there's always a way of having a PT, even if it's going to a gym and having a bit of help as part of membership, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's one of the, like, when you are a business owner, you have to learn so many things. Like, you have to be not only what you do as your business, but you then have to be the accountant. You then have to be the marketing department. You have to be the employee. You have to be, everything, really. So it really takes a load off to have external help and have a team around you, because then you can just focus on doing what you know how to do, rather than trying to split your time through everything else.
And it's so helpful. It's that building the team from the get-go. When I used to think, oh god, I've got to do everything, and actually now I'm like, how can I do literally just my bit? It's a very empowering place. So for people listening, please don't go, oh, that's for other people, or that's for me when I'm bigger, or when I've got more money, or when I was like, no, start now. Surround yourself with people who care about you and matter. And I love, Sabrina, that you work in that space. You're like, I want to work with new people, with sole traders. I want to work with property companies. It's a massive one. The number of accountants, isn't it? Disrespect to accountants. Accountants have their niches, and the number of accountants I know don't really understand property, or they have an opinion about how it should be, is because their niche isn't property, it's something else. And it's like, it really is a different mindset. I think buying and holding properties in the way that we do anyway, and doing it for cash flow. I mean, I've even had the conversation with my accountants, who obviously, they predate you being an accountant, in the sense of, hence why I'm not working with you. It's not because you couldn't do my books. It's just, I was already working with them. And I remember a few years ago having to say to them, I don't think you understand my business. And they're a big accounting firm and they're flipping epic. Like, they've really helped me with a load of stuff. But they basically tried to tell me that my portfolio doesn't really work. There's no capital growth. And I was like, well, you don't understand my business then. I'm not doing it for capital growth. I'm doing it for cash flow. I don't have to go to work. You guys do. Like, my business is working, just not in the way that you think. So I think the other thing to say to people is get the right advice at the right time for the right person, from the right person about what the outcome is. So that people can, work on those outcomes and stuff. Absolutely. What would be your top piece of advice to people listening to this who are stuck, or who are in business but are just like, they've got an idea but they just don't know where to start?
Oh, it's not sexy. I'm sorry.
Yes, good. We're consistent. We're nothing if not consistent on this podcast. Where basically, I think I might have that as a tagline. We're not sexy, but it works. Go on. What is it?
It's just planning. So yeah, it's planning. It is, but not in the sense of, so if you're, it's writing down what you want, where you want to get to, and looking at where you are at now and what are the steps that I know I've said it a few times.
But it's so, but no, but repetition is good, right? Because it's like, we could sell sexy.
Yeah.
But it's just empty in that sense, like actually telling people how to actually get sexy. So I would say that planning does get us actually sexy.
Yes.
So it's almost like planning is sexy, but it occurs as not. But actually, if you do the planning, then it becomes sexy.
There's an enormous sense of achievement to be had from planning out your goals and then doing the actions. So that is where the confidence comes from, is setting out, okay, well, I need to sort out the bank account, as could be your very first step, but through doing that, you've taken a step towards your goal of what your business is. So it's not sexy, but in that you will grow confidence, and you'll be on the way towards like making your dream come true, whatever that is. So
it's like, don't do the not sexy so you can ultimately become sexy.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's great to say that again, because I think most people give up because they expect sexy way sooner than it's actually going to come, and then they go, this isn't sexy, this is what I thought it was going to be, and then they give up. Whereas actually, if we can really say to people, guys, this is not going to be sexy, it's going to be hard work and planned and this and that, then there's a level to which I hope people who do listen to this will go, oh, okay, it's meant to be like this. It's meant to be ugly and messy and not happen as fast and all of that. So actually, I'm in the right place, so I'm going to stick at it. Versus we sold the lie that is out there. It's like, it's quick, it's easy, it's sexy, you won't have a problem, da-da-da-da. That's why people then fail. So I think it's brilliant piece of advice.
Yeah. Another thing that's occurring
to say it.
Yeah. It's really boring, but having boundaries as well, and actually really knowing what you want to start with. Don't settle for people just because they're going to bring you money. So that's another thing.
And how, give us an example of what you mean by that. So like, have you got a past example where you've said no to that, but then actually ended up with more money type thing? Or like, because what people go, why wouldn't I take the money?
So I can take myself now, like, I'm being really specific about asking for powerlifting clients, and and sole traders and property businesses. So I'm asking for those, so that those are the people that I work with. But if I take on others with other goals, say fat loss and stuff, things that I'm not passionate about, I can do, but I'm not passionate about them. Just because they're going to bring me income, then it just becomes a drain on my time, on my energy, and I'm just doing this work that I don't value. So I'm not going to bring my best self to that work because it's not my passion. And I might have less patience for those clients, or it's just a drain on your energy, and you're not going to be able to put 100% into it. So if you stick with your guns and know your value and how much you're worth, and you say, no, this is who I'm working with and this is what I'm worth, you're going to bring 100% to that business, and you'll get more out of that than you will out of just taking anybody on.
It's massive, especially for people starting out, because there's that temptation. I'm sure we've all done it. I know I have to just do everything. Like when I had my catering company when I was 26, and someone will go, and I was a chef, right? So I can literally cook anything. I've worked in Michelin star restaurants, and people go, can you make this? And I'm like, yes. And it literally got to the point where I had a business coach, Chris Gibbons, who was on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, actually, who was just like, you've got like 12 businesses. You don't have one catering business. Because I was doing weddings, breakfast, like granola, breakfast snack bars, buffets, wedding cakes for cafes. It was literally like he said, just pick ready meals. That was the one he wanted me to pick. He was like, just pick one and just do that. I was like, I can't, it's boring. And like, I look back now and go, wow, if I'd have done what he said at 26, which was, 15 years ago, and done ready meals,
it's massive now. It's
massive. And it still will be massive, and it'll come back around because I'll do the farm and then we'll do ready meals and I'll listen to him 20 years later and it'll still be successful. But it's just funny how, that I literally took everything. I would just say yes to everything. Someone would go, can you do a £5 a head office buffet? Could you do a high-end 8-course wedding? And I'd be like, yes. And then wondered why my business was just, I couldn't function.
Yeah, and you'll end up with a business you didn't want at the start. Like,
yeah, exactly. Whereas if I'd have just gone, what do I actually really want to cook? I never asked myself that question back then. I never said, what do I really want to cook? What do I enjoy cooking? What do I enjoy doing? I just said yes to everything. And it was just a car crash, really. But a successful car crash. It's such a paradox, because then I was really busy and miserable and then just stopped rather than... Yeah. Good advice.
Yeah.
Amazing. Sabrina, we've done an hour and 50 minutes. When sometimes I say to people, we'll do a couple of hours on the podcast, they're like, no way, you can't talk for that long. It's like, their 2 hours was gone. So I really honour you for your honesty and sharing about what it's actually like. And there's a theme definitely coming in my podcast, which is like, we talk about unsexy things. I like how we've actually vocalized it in this podcast. But I just really thank you for your time and your attention and like showing up and being authentic. It's such a pleasure to just speak about how things are and what people have been through and, the realities of. And I'm the first one to go, reality's an inside out job. There's no such thing. And then there's the like, what actually happened? How is it really? What's business like? What does success really look like? And it's like, success is over time, small increments over time. And it's really lovely to hear it said from a PT version, from an accounting version, all of that. So thank you for your time. And I'm so excited about SSLGJ's future journey. I think it's probably time that I have you guys on as a group, as a podcast, to like
we'll have to come back,
share with people, because you guys are becoming the sexy. After everything we've said, like, it's not sexy, it's not sexy, it's not sexy. SSLGJ is becoming sexy now.
We've had 5 years of not sexy, like,
It's time to have the sexy and go, actually, look what we've done. This is really cool. So yes, we'll get that in the diary, I think. But I think we're booked until September, but we'll get it for like, the September season of stuff. Because that'll be really interesting to hear, because you've only just taken on these flats. It'll be lovely in 6 months to see where that's at and do a real acknowledgement of how far you guys have come and what's happened and where everyone's at. So thanks for showing up. Thanks for everyone that's listened. You can find Sabrina in all the links wherever you're listening this to. If you're on YouTube getting frustrated because it doesn't it doesn't remember where you are, you can come across to Spotify or iTunes and all the podcast platforms. Sabrina, it's been a pleasure. See you all soon, everyone. Thanks, everybody.